This once glorious franchise is in absolute shambles right now, and it's clear as day to me that this team is not serious about winning. When in last place at the trade deadline and having a below average farm system, this team is still in last place right now. They just lost a series to the White Sox, who were not very good. All you did at the trade deadline was bring in a middle reliever with a 3.96 ERA. That's it? What is wrong with you? It should have been obvious that what you're doing right now is not working. This team can't hit water if they fell out of a boat on most nights. They are horrible with situational hitting, have been mismanaged in way too many big spots, and worst of all, make excuses. The first game against the White Sox in this series that they just lost, the Yankees had the bases loaded 3 times. Twice with no outs. You only scored 1 run. You let Dylan Cease, a guy with an ERA well over 4, shut you out. That's how depleted this team is. That call that Aaron Boone got ejected on was actually the right call too. I have no problem with him trying to fire up his team and stick up for his guys, and it was definitely entertaining, don't get me wrong there. However, I would have rather seen it on an actual bad call, because there were plenty of those. Just that third strike that he got ejected for arguing was the correct call no matter who's umpiring. Then the Yankees beat the White Sox 7-1, only to lose to them 9-2 in the very next game. Once again, couldn't score when they had the bases loaded with no outs in the 8th inning. That's the story of this team. They are way too inconsistent to compete for a championship because they rely way too heavily on home runs. They're 6th in home runs while 21st in runs scored, 2nd to last in batting average. As great as home runs are, they're hard to hit, and you can never be a consistent offense if you rely that heavily on home runs. The most frustrating part of all of this, though, is that the front office is delusional, thinking that this team has what it takes to win a World Series. You've had your chances for years, yet you keep running it back, and the only thing that's happening is that these guys are getting older now. This is the 7th oldest team by average age. The only thing that this team is consistent with is inconsistency. This team has had the same problem for years, relying too heavily on home runs and can't manufacture runs. They don't play fundamental baseball. They don't ever change their approach, and has a manager who just does nothing but pat them on the back rather than hold them accountable. This is not April anymore. It's August, and you're only 3 games above 500. Yet anyone in the front office really thinks that this team has what it takes to compete for a World Series? If this team didn't have the boatload of money that they have and ran the team in this fashion, they'd be a bottom of the barrel team. I guarantee it. Hal Steinbrenner really had the audacity to question why us fans are concerned back in June. Since then, the Yankees are 18-23. The team was 41-33 at the time, but didn't win at least 3 games in a row for over a month when he said that. You see our concern now? Wake up! You clearly don't know the Yankees fan base at all if you think just making the playoffs will satisfy us. How did you grow up as George Steinbrenner's son and believe just making the playoffs is how to appease us?
Are you a graceful loser?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm like a Yankee fan. My foot has gone through a number of television sets in my time. I bleed like those guys out there do, the fans. I mean, they hate to see you lose, and I hate to lose.
You take it personally?
Yes. Yes,
I mean,
do.
What does it say about George Steinbrenner when the Yankees lose?
It says he's one of the worst losers in the world. You show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. And I gotta be one of the worst.
It's true that baseball's a hard sport to predict. Anything can happen in the playoffs, but this team hasn't been to the World Series since 2009 now, and this current team that's only swept 1 team in the last 3 months, that 1 team is the 2nd worst team in Major League Baseball, by the way. Get real. You got swept last year in the ALCS, and the only things that this team has done to even try to improve during the offseason is sign Carlos Rodon, who's been hurt and has pitched terribly, and bring back Tommy Kahnle when the bullpen is not the problem. We know this team couldn't do anything to get better at the trade deadline, so you may as well tear it down and start over. Otherwise, you're just doing what is the definition of insanity, to just do the same thing over and over and expect different results. This current regime's World Series window has closed. It's clear as day. The judge and jury's out. Back in 2018, the Baltimore Orioles, who are our first place team right now, they went full rebuild. They were horrible from then until 2021. Look at them now. They're still paying one of the worst contracts in the league with Chris Davis and will until 2037, but they hit the reset button when they needed to. It sure was ugly at first, but now it's working out beautifully for them. Even though they don't have nearly as many resources as the Yankees do. They traded Manny Machado and Zach Britton at the 2018 trade deadline while they were on expiring contracts at the time and unlikely to resign. They also let go of Adam Jones at the end of that season. Those guys were franchise cornerstones. Sometimes you need to get worse before you get better. That's what the Yankees need to do right now, because right now for the Yankees, there's nothing they can do to get better immediately with the dysfunction that exists in this organization. It really is best to just start from scratch, even if it means wasting Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole's prime years. I might even say Gleyber Torres too. It may have actually been a good thing not to sell him off because he's still 26 and is currently having a resurgence as a rare bright spot in this offense. But this team is still very dysfunctional. This team is still going nowhere. This team is not even close to being a World Series contender. It's very clear as day. This team may not even make the playoffs. They wouldn't even be in the wild card if the season ended today. So apparently Brian Cashman actually for once had the right mindset of selling at the deadline, but Hal Steinbrenner told him not to. I've made this point before. Owners should stay out of personnel decisions. This is true in every sport. You're there to sign the checks and nothing else. Brian Cashman's still not off the hook though for a number of reasons, like the semblance of the current team and hiring Aaron Boone to be a yes man, but this time it's a perfect example of why owners should never have anything to do with making personnel decisions. Let's talk about the guys who Brian Cashman was intending to sell, starting with Luis Severino. He's been nothing but a trash can this year. Feels like yesterday when we thought we had a new homegrown ace who really impressed us when he was just 23 years old 6 years ago. But now it feels like every time he's on the mound, the Yankees are guaranteed to lose with his ERA that's currently over 8. You'll likely not get a lot back for him because his value has absolutely been shot, but something is still better than nothing. Now Harrison Bader, he hasn't hit well, but at least he has some trade value because he's played well defensively. You could have gotten something for him and not really lose anything because it's not like he puts any kind of fear into the pitcher, but he does bring defense, so it's not like he's completely untradeable. Giancarlo Stanton is a shell of what he used to be. I love the guy, but it's the truth. He hit a home run today, but he's still barely hitting over 200 on the season while still making $32 million over the next 3 seasons. You'll still have to pay him most of, if not that entire contract to get rid of him, but you're the Yankees. You've been able to hide bad contracts before. I've wanted Giancarlo Stanton to succeed with us since day one, but he just doesn't have it in his legs anymore. His injuries have caught up with him, and it may be best to move on, even if you still have to pay him. DJ LeMahieu was hot before he got hurt again, which has been happening quite a lot for a few years now. Even while he was hot, I had my doubts. I still do have my doubts that he'll come back hot, but you know what? You may be able to get rid of Stanton and DJ if you eat their contracts. I know DJ and Stanton will cost money to get rid of, but you're the Yankees. You have the money. Do what you gotta do for the best interest of this team. These guys are getting older and they don't have much left in the tank anymore. Now, Anthony Rizzo, who's been out with a concussion that he suffered in May, but it wasn't diagnosed until recently, he's been horrible since June, and knowing he was concussed this whole time sure explains it, and also how he is a former World Series champion once forgot how many outs there were. So now if the Yankees sold, they likely wouldn't get better immediately. However, there's at least a sense of direction. Then you can at least say this is not our year, but we're building for the future and we'll be back before anyone knows it. I'm so sorry for Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole to waste years out of their primes, but the front office already this up to begin with. Don't it up more by doing what's the definition of insanity, to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. Well, don't keep doing that because you've done enough of that already. In fact, this team did sell at the trade deadline in 2016 that seemed like a lost season until Gary Sanchez came in and almost got the team in the playoffs. And then the next year, the team was 1 game away from reaching the World Series. I'm not saying that would have happened this year. No one saw that coming back then. It's definitely unlikely now. If you chose to sell, at at least you have direction. If you decided to buy at the deadline, I would have disagreed with that decision, but that's still better than doing nothing because at least you know what you want to do. The worst thing you could have done is not knowing what you want to do, and that's exactly what happened. We know Hal Steinbrenner won't sell the team. I'd be really happy if he does, but I'd also be very shocked if he does. You know what he needs to do is listen to the reality check that so many of us fans have given him for years. The current regime is not working. You know your father would never tolerate this. To be fair, your father was not a great baseball mind either, but he would never tolerate a manager always saying, we did good things, we got good at bats when you're striking out at least 8 times per game on the season. You're second to last in baseball in batting average and have driven in the second fewest runs with runners in scoring position. You can't even score when you have the bases loaded with nobody out. Aaron Boone really said he's excited to see men on base after scoring just 1 run when he had the bases loaded 3 times, twice with no outs in 1 game. What the is so exciting about unfinished business? Finish the job. Since Hal Steinbrenner clearly doesn't trust Brian Cashman, and to be fair, he shouldn't, he should just fire him and hire someone he does trust and let the guy hire a manager who will actually be there to manage and not just be there to blow bubbles on the steps of the dugout and pat everyone on the back like a parent who enables their child. If that's all you want Aaron Boone to do, you can get a cardboard cutout to manage the team and the results will be the same. The only difference is you won't get the theatrics from the ejections with Aaron Boone. Even though the trade deadline was really Hal Steinbrenner's fault from what I'm hearing, also because Brian Cashman's still not off the hook and Aaron Boone's done a piss poor job managing this team, please just give Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman the Uncle Phil Jazz treatment. It's sad that this team's best chance to win the World Series was in 2017. They should have been building off of that, and I was willing to give Aaron Boone a chance, but the judge and jury's out that this team needs a new voice and a new direction. Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone aren't it, and Hal Steinbrenner, just stay out of everything that doesn't involve signing the checks. That's all you're there for as the owner. That's where I'll wrap it up, so if you're as frustrated as I am and or enjoyed this rant, please consider hitting the like button, subscribe, and turning on notifications if you haven't already so you never miss another video. Love to have you as part of the team. Also, if you want to vent out your frustrations with the Yankees, I welcome you to do that in the comment section too, or just let me know what you think if you're not a Yankees fan that happens to be watching this. Links to my social media are down in the description. If you'd like to see my most recent video or the one that YouTube recommends, both are up above. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Go Yankees. Hopefully better days are to come, but probably not anytime soon.